Hi, and welcome to Sandy's Numerology. I'm going to unpack Donald Trump, the USA, the Republican Party, and the Democratic Party. Donald Trump is born Donald John Trump on the 14th of June, 1946. He's named Donald as a 5. John is an 11, and he's got double hidden 11s in his date of birth. Trump is a 7. Full-born names are a 5. Daily names are 3. He's born on the 14th. That gives another 5. And then he's got double 6s, but he's got a 4 life path. And the fascinating thing about Donald Trump is that a 4 life path is always about father and father issues. Now, he always professes his relationship with his father, but I'm going to say that anything that Donald Trump says is not always quite true. And I think there were a lot of issues there. I don't think he was a daddy's boy at all. And I don't think that his father was there for him the way he needed, because of his work being a builder. Probably left early, came home late, and never was able to spend the quality time with Donald Trump. And yet he did rule and he did dictate, because it shows in his birthday how strong his father would be about rules and boundaries. Who is Donald Trump? He's an independent. He is a self-driven man, having the 4 in his days about property and build, restore, renovate. But it's also about nature and outdoors, and we know that he's a golfer. But he's got these 555s that is all about the untruths, that he even starts to believe his own lies, how he diverts attention. And this is what you've got to watch with Donald Trump. When he is tweeting or he's doing anything, he's always how wonderful I am, and then he will divert attention to you to look at what the Democrats are doing, for example, or the negative towards a person that he's either fired or is no good, without trying to be a doctor and diagnose him. But he is definitely bipolar. He's definitely a narcissist. We all know that. And it's very interesting. This 4 life path also tells me that I don't think he's very good at reading, because he's got 6s, which makes him have an attention span deficit. And on many occasions, when he is supposed to be reading a script, he goes off script. So I'm saying that I don't think that he's able to read and follow. He needs to always jump out and say what he feels he needs to say, which is, unfortunately for him, he doesn't think before he says. He's about power, he's about control. And the interesting thing with this impeachment that is happening, he is in a 5 personal year, so there's a lot of problems going on within his family environment, his marriage, his relationship. There are truths and untruths, and which we are yet to hear. But that will come out. His taxes, we still haven't seen, or the world hasn't seen, or America hasn't seen his taxes. But his age at the moment adds to a 1. So he is in a year of expressing me, myself, and I. And at the age of 73, he's really, it's almost like there's nobody else exists but him. But this impeachment trial, unfortunately, I don't think has been handled very well. As much as we feel that the Democrats did kind of put things together, but America's got very different rules about right and wrong and good and bad and who's who and who can speak up and who can't. And he's trying to prevent a book from being published, which is still going to come out and cause even more problems for him. So this impeachment trial he's going to get off. There's no doubt about that. We go to the election, which is going to be on the 3rd of the 11th, 2020. And I feel he's going to come in, but by a small margin. And then the trouble starts. So let's just bring Donald Trump to his 2019 being the age of 73. In June, he turns 74, and that adds to an 11, and then he's got triple 11s. So something out there in the greater world is going to be affected by Donald Trump, and he's going to cause a shift, a separation, a division. And this is not in America's numerology, but it's in his, where he's going into threatening time. So the chance of him, he's been itching about a war, and I think that he's going to actually start that, which kind of brings him to August. It could rise in June around his birthday, the 14th of June. But by the time we get to November, and remember November month is all the 11s every day, and at least twice a week is going to have an impact of 11s. So August to November is when he could get involved in initiating and threatening. But because he goes into a personal 6 year from his birthday in 2020, he's got double sixes. And this is actually when the connection kind of in his brain is almost like disconnection. Something is going to trigger here. And this is really the highlight, because he's got a 4 life path and he does suffer from depression. But when you see him on TV, you would never know that, because this is the real stuff, and they have this ability to hide. And I don't think it's an intentional hide. It's just that there's a lot that is kept down deep. But his reaction, and this is all going to surface, and the way he writes his tweets and what he says, he's going to trip himself up about something. And this is also going to be even more issues within a mental state that is also going to emerge. Now, we know he's got in his astrology chart, he's got a particular fixed star, which is said to be bullet to the head. But he is a person who fears being poisoned, and 6 means poison. And this would be something that happens, it's going to happen in a personal capacity. But this could also maybe medication that he has a reaction to. But something is going to trigger that. It's almost like, where does this come from? What happened? I believe that there could also be an attempt on his life, and we know that there's been a message put out there and a lot of money attached to taking Trump out, coming from the Middle East, Iran, Iraq superiors. something is going to go wrong for Donald Trump. So I'm going to bring it back 2 months, starting April, hits on his birthday. A weak month for him is, months are April, May, June, and then November. And then into 2021 will be February, and again April and June. So it's not going to go well for him. And I wonder that with this age adding to an 11, this is where the law comes to him. This is the time for impeachment. Maybe it won't be the word impeachment, maybe it's something else. But when you have too many 11s and you are in an 11 year, he could lose his footing. So yes, he could fall, he could slip, he could fall, but he loses his footing on a world stage. And this could be about losing his presidency because of, is he seen to be unstable? Yes, he is. There's no doubt. This is a bad year for him. And I wonder what we're going to see as this, starting April of 2020, hits on his birthday, trails through to November and into February and April of 2021. Something's going to go down here. But it's interesting that where he sits under his name, he's got this 22-4, which is normally somebody who will be put into high position, or they have this big company that is on the constant of expansion, etc. And we know that he's got big businesses and hotels around the world, etc. that he's supposedly not involved in. Well, we question all of that. But he sits with a 555 triangle, which is starting at the age of 72. He's now 73, 2019, 2020 turned 74. But it runs way past his birthday at 77. So the 6 personal, family, connection, disconnection, irresponsibility, reactionary, poison, gun, gas, explosion. The 11. When we look at we just look at the word bipolar, and that is swings from north to south, and he's going into that kind of year where he's swinging backwards and forwards. So he could start more threats and then threaten and then overstep the mark and try and pull back, but his balance is going to be out. He's recently signed this document with Israel, which will not be accepted. So there's a stirring of a pot there, the stirring of the Iraq and the Iran. And if we have the Gulf, if they go to war there and the Gulf closes, this is going to push the price of petrol through the roof. It's also imports and exports, if those channels are closed, is going to also spike everything. There's a lot of problems coming. And especially because we go into a global 5-year in 2021, which is all about powers and wars and militancy. It's about military. It is import and export. It's the word foreign. A lot of difficulties coming. And the interesting thing is that America's got a 5 life path. They are in their life path 2019 July to 2020. So there's still quite a bit of problems that are going to be happening that are still going to escalate until July of even July, August of 2020, and then America goes into a 7/11 in 2021, which hits on their birthday because they're born on the 4th of July. There's the 7, and 4 and 7 adds to an 11. So the after effect of if there's going to be a war or sanctions, and a variety of wars, currency wars, import-export, things are going to escalate out of hand for the powers that be, because when you hit a 5 global year, this affects the powers, whether it is government or powers, political powers, religious powers, education, import-export, but it's got to bring in change. And yes, a war can create a massive change, but actually the universe is asking all of us to change our old ways. But also, is this war that he starts around this August, maybe a little bit into November, is also around the time that America goes to vote? And this is even more fascinating because they're voting on the 3rd of November. So there's an 11, but the 3rd of November adds to a 14, which adds to a 5, double hidden 5s. So that whole day is deceitful, underhanded, racial, and we know when Bush was having elections and how his brother took off a lot of African Americans off the voter roll. This is the kind of thing that's going to happen on that day. This is bad politics on the 3rd of November. It's going to affect America on a negative, but the truth will come out over the next days as all of the figures come in, and sometimes collecting all of the vote to count, you're going to start to hear about how things were played with by the powers or the political powers. And by the final news that comes out, this is not going to be good news at all. And then there's one other thing that Donald Trump is doing, and that's on the 4th of February, which is the State of the Union address. The 4th of February adds to a 6, hidden double 6s, and a 1-day outcome. So this Donald Trump State of the Union address is going to be about Donald Trump. It's not going to be about his country. Yeah, he'll make it about his country, but it's all about me, myself, and I. We look at the Republican Party. They're born on the 20th of the 3rd. So being born on the 20th of the 3rd gives them double hidden 5s. They're born in 1854. They've got a 5 life path. We match that up to the day of voting being the 3rd of the 11th and double hidden 5s. The Republicans are going to be fraudulent on that day. But this is going to be really fascinating because the power of the Republican Party and the lack of change, the old school, the corruption that sits in the Republican Party, and they're going to be, from 2020, they go into a 9-4 year, so the age will add to a 4. So they're going to be 166 years old. But that 20 of the 3rd matches the 3rd of the 11 when they vote, because the 11 becomes a 2. So actually it's got the Republicans Party hidden behind numerically in the day of voting. But I think what is really scary for the Republican Party is that by the time they get to January of 2021, their age will add to a 5, which compounds their double hit and 5s. There's going to be a lot of problems that are going to be sitting in the Republican Party. And it's quite interesting, in Donald Trump's name that sits between his O and his H in John, he has a 22-4. Interesting that where the Grand Old Party, which was its birth name, which is the Republican Party, have also got this 22-4. So Donald Trump was in line and meant to be the leader of the Republican Party. So the impact what Donald has on America, let alone on his Republican Party, and all these fraudulent things that are around Donald Trump is all going to be exposed. The Democratic Party is born on the 8th of January, 1828. 2020 January, they turn 192. And they're not in a year that is very successful. There's going to be internal structural changes within there, and of course we're waiting to hear who is the prime candidate for the Democratic Party, but I don't see them winning. And it's going to be about such fraudulent activity, corruption, fraud, politicking, power games, very underhanded. But I still believe that the Democratic Party would not win this election. They're going to be out there, obviously, in the groups and crowds and giving out their story. But I don't see them being that successful, by the fact that I do feel that the Republican Party's chances of coming in with a very, very strong lead. No, but I do believe they're going to have a lead. I definitely think that Donald Trump is going to come in. And I also, unfortunately, believe that he needs to come in and he needs to do what he needs to do to wake up America. He is not going to go down as a successful president. And until America changes within its core, and it's a 5 life path, so it doesn't do change very well. Nothing's going to change. And the sad part is it's got double 11s, which is meant to reach out. It's meant to join hands. It's meant to engage. And Obama was the epitome of what 11s were. He had an 11 life path. He joined hands with Cuba. He joined hands with Iran. And then here comes Donald Trump with his 11s, which he's also supposed to be reaching out. But he, about power and control and arrogance and ego, actually severs all the ties and cuts the deals. Things kind of started looking better, although not without problems, and they're not going to get any better. So if he starts some kind of threats or instigates something, it's going to affect that whole northern hemisphere, and it's going to affect the currencies. It's going to ripple effect. We know that with the Brexit, which happened on the 31st of January, still going to take quite a while for it to find its feet and its agreements. But this could have an added effect, which affects the middle of Europe, that now hits the Middle East, that hits Russia, that hits China. So I think it's going to be time for another episode that I'm going to have a look at the Middle East. I will look at Israel and Palestine and bring in Russia, China, and of course I've still got to do North Korea. and the effect there. So we're not going into happy times around the world. Thank you for watching Sandy's Numerology. Subscribe and click on the button so that you get advised of any new shows that will be coming up.